so we connected to our root folder. We created our first page. It's index.html, our home page. We looked at the code a little bit. Now we're ready to add some information to this page. But before I do that, I like to open my properties window. And I like to connect the properties window down here at the bottom. If I highlight it, hold it over the bottom until it's translucent, then it should pop to the bottom there. And I also look at the CSS Designer panel, and I like to open that up until it pops into 2 columns. I think it makes it a little easier to understand. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go to our Insert panel and add a Bootstrap component. Before we've used the HTML, we've used the form, we've used the jQuery. Now we have Bootstrap components we can use. First thing we're going to add is that container, the box that's going to hold everything else into it. We have 2 choices, the container or container fluid. For this we want a totally responsive website, so we're going to go for the container fluid. And we want to nest that in our website. So if we look at the code side, the source code, we have our head code at the top, our body, and now within that body we have a fluid container. Go back to the live view. And we're on the live view. We'll work primarily from the live view, not the design view now. And you can see with the container fluid highlighted, this little blue tag pops up telling me what class or what container I'm in. We also have what's called the DOM panel, a very important panel here, called the DOM panel, or Document Object Model. And that shows me the trail of all of my different tags. So there's my HTML. I can open or close these. There's that head tag. There's the body. Within that body, there's my div class fluid, that fluid container tag. So pay attention while I'm working. I can either click over here in the DOM panel. I can click up here in the live view. And I can also check down here in this pathway. I can click down here. All right, the next thing I'm going to add is a navigation bar. Now I'm going to do sort of a default layout. You don't have to always do it this way. You can lay it out however you want, but I'm going to do a pretty traditional one here. So I'm going back to my Insert panel. Bootstrap components. And I'm going to go to the nav bar. We have several choices. Basic, fix to the top, fix to the bottom, or inverted. For this project, I'm going to do the basic nav bar. And then we have these choices. Do I want to put it before the div tag that I have selected, which is the container fluid? Do I want to put it after? Do I want to wrap it? Or do I want to nest it inside? Well, I want this to be inside that container fluid tag, so I'm going to say nest. And then you will see a pre-made navigation bar, default navigation bar in there. It also features drop-down buttons if you want to use those, some link buttons, a submit form, and a brand where you can put your name of your company on there. Well, we're going to come back and change that a little bit later. Right now I'm just starting to make some of the structure of my website. So once again, let's look at the DOM panel and see what's happening. There's our div container, and there's our nav bar. And I can see all the code or all the tags that go to create that nav bar. If I look at the source code side, I can also see all the HTML code that is added and all the links to the CSS that are added to give us that functioning navigation bar. Okay, the next thing I'm going to add is a slider or an image carousel. So I want to make sure I'm on the highest level or parent of my nav bar. Highest level of my nav bar, which is class navbar default. And then I can add the Bootstrap component carousel. And I want this after my navbar. So I'm going to say after. And there we are. And it's a functioning navbar. I'm sorry, a slider or carousel. We'll add some image and adjust the text later. Let me keep building my website first. And actually, before we do that, let's look at the carousel over here in the DOM panel. There's my ID carousel, class carousel slide. If I open that, I can see it is based on an unordered or an ordered list with different list items. Those different list items will be the sliders. Okay, I'm going to minimize that carousel. And I'm on that carousel ID div tag. And the next thing I'm going to add is a article, a basic HTML article. So for the insert panel, I'm going to HTML. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to use an article. And click that again. There we are. And I'm going to put this after the carousel. Okay, and Dreamweaver puts a default text in there, which I don't think I need, so I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to click the box, then highlight that and delete. I can still see that little box there. And I'm going to put some of my own text in there. So let me click back here on this article tag in my DOM panel. And then on my HTML insert panel, I have some choices for inserting text. For this, I'm going to insert H1 heading text first. I want that to be nested inside of this article. There we are. Now, if you look over here on my DOM panel, I'm on my H1 tag. Next, I want to put some paragraph text in there. So I'm going to click on the paragraph tag on the insert panel. And this one I want to be after my H1, and then it'll be nested within the article also. Good, so I have my article created. And we'll do a couple more things, then we'll come back and do some formatting and editing. The next thing I'm going to do is insert another Bootstrap component. It's a pre-made little component called a thumbnail. So I'll go ahead and click on that, and I want this after my article. First I made sure it's on my article tag here. Then I went to my insert thumbnail, and I want that after my article. If I scroll down here, I will see this thumbnail box is made up of a thumbnail image. This is a placeholder image, a heading, which is H3, some paragraph text, and then some buttons. We'll come back and edit those later. All right, and let me look at the DOM panel here for my thumbnail. I can see there's the paragraph text that was added, there's a H3, there's my caption, there's my image, there's the thumbnail box, but that's not the highest level. There's also a column level, and that column is within a row. Okay, so that row can stretch all the way across the page, and here's that one column, and within that column is this thumbnail pre-made little section with the thumbnail image, the text, and the buttons. Okay, and we'll come back later and add some more column thumbnails here. But for now, I'm on that class row level. I'm going to go back to my insert HTML section, and I'm going to add a footer to finish out the structure of my website. I want this to be after that thumbnail class row. And there's my footer at the bottom. And I'm going to preview and save this. Yes, save changes. And it's going to copy those placeholder images from the carousel and from this thumbnail section. I'm going to say OK. And there we are. There's the structure of my website ready to go. We've got our nav bar with drop downs. We have our working carousel. We have our thumbnail with some buttons. And we have our footer at the bottom. So we have the structure with that basic Bootstrap CSS applied to that. In our next videos, we're going to come back and edit the text and images. Then we'll come back and edit some of the CSS.